Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Traycee Maya, and I'm so happy that she's here with me. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Caroline, and I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to our time together and can't wait to rock it together.
Thank you so much for saying yes, and I would love to introduce you to the audience. Of course, you are an expert in guiding leaders to harness the power of human connection for remarkable success in their careers and teams. You specialize in helping senior leaders drive accountability, productivity, and financial results by improving leadership presence and adopting growth mindsets. You also equip leaders with tools to attract and retain top talent while getting the best out of every team member. As an executive leader, trainer, coach, entrepreneur, and author of the 5-star rated book, The Leadership Contradiction, you share both your successes and challenges to help others grow. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Traycee
Thank
Maya.
you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Caroline.
Do
Thank
you
you.
recognize yourself? I didn't
I
mix up.
do recognize, and it's very humbling. So thank you
Oh,
for sharing
thank
that.
you
So,
so much
yes.
for joining. So, my first question is, in your book, The Leadership Contradiction, what are the key takeaways for leaders looking to improve their team dynamics and performance?
Oh, that's a great question. And there's so many takeaways. In fact, I've seen people who have the book dog-eared and tagged, and there's so many practical things that you could start on right away. But the premise of the book is the leadership contradiction is really kind of calling out the fact that leaders who are not connected to their employees and who are not aware of who they are as a leader and really just focus on themselves and don't treat their employees well, all of these negative, dark, fearful behaviors, I believe disqualifies them from being a leader. In my opinion, and I coined the term leadership contradiction, is that they're just they disqualify themselves from being a leader, and they become just a boss. And these are the types of quote unquote leaders that people leave. This is where highly qualified individuals and top talent just leave. They fire their bosses by walking out the door and saying, "I've had enough." And so the leadership contradiction is saying, you know what, there's a way to be a leader through connecting authentically with your employees, to paying attention to who they are, to valuing them, to seeing them, to hearing them. And so my goal, after 40 plus years in leadership positions myself, and having trained and developed hundreds of different leaders, is to help leaders that are struggling, to help new leaders, to help teams who have problems connecting because they have a leader who's negative or who tries to put them against each other. All of this old school stuff that doesn't work anymore for truly great employees. So that's a little bit of, I guess, what that leadership connection is, or contradiction, excuse me, and is not being connected to your employees and trying to lead people not in a way that they want to be led.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for pointing this out. The difference between leader, manager, I would add, and boss. Being the boss, being bossy. You have this word in
Yeah.
in English. Yeah, you are so bossy. I love that. No, I mean I love words in general, playing with
Yes.
words. And I learned about leadership and the difference between leaders and managers as well. So people always join companies and they leave managers or leaders. You said this, it's like voting by feet, we call it in
Right.
Germany. When they go out of the door, they leave the company as well, and this is the sign. So I think it's a topic not many people talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think they feel like they're gonna be in trouble, or they're going to, they just can't do anything about it because that person's in the senior role. And I say that's not true at all. In fact, I just heard the term a couple days ago, firing your boss. And that is by leaving the company. Because if you're talented and you are skilled and you're making the company money, and you were hired in the first place to do a certain task for a certain amount of money, well, then they valued you then. But as time goes on, when you're not treated well, you fire your boss by leaving the company and going to work for a competitor or someone else. It's the time of the universe when employees care about how they're treated at work. I still do come across people, of course, that I coach who are struggling with, my boss doesn't treat me well. I don't think I could get a different job. I'm just going to have to suck it up and put up with it. And, nobody else would want me if they found out I just quit my job. And I say, garbage to all of that, because I think it's not true. I think if you value yourself, you value what you're contributing to the company, and you're not getting the respect and the connection from the person that leads you, then by all means, walk on and go somewhere else. Start your own business. Be in a different leadership role. There are so many people who just need the strength and courage to say that. And at the same time, I am coaching privately a lot of senior leaders who have gotten in trouble for behaving in such a terrible way and acting like people don't have choices, because they're finding out that it's not true. Employees can leave. And at the end of the day, it's not the employees so much anymore, but it's the leaders who are negatively affecting the company. Because if they're not leading the quality employees correctly, they're the ones who are damaging the company. So, the ones that realize that, either by themselves or because maybe HR has gotten involved, and sometimes attorneys, because people, employees are suing bosses who are causing them emotional stress. And, and I get a chance to interject and get in the middle of that and say, okay, let's privately talk about some of the behavior and why being a tough guy, tough girl, whichever, doesn't matter, man or woman. There's a lot of, there's both out there that are just bosses who are, so negative and so focused on their own ego that they forget that they need to pay attention and give their employees time and support and see them for the quality employees they are. So, times are changing. I love how on the back of your platform there, it says stories of change. And that's exactly what's happening in the workforce. I know we have 5 generations of workforce currently in the workplace. And I believe not only is Gen Z driving this, but also, people, the Generation X, the people that are, I'm kind of like at the top of the Generation X. I'm not a baby boomer. I'm on the X and on the edge of the X. And, so I grew up with all the old school, things of you got to do this, you got to do that. You have to go out every night after work and have cocktails with your bosses so that you can look like you're showing up. And I think that's all baloney. I don't think that none of that's the case. I think that people are taking back their lives. Those, like myself, I just turned 59 and I quit my last corporate job last year and said, I'm not doing it anymore. You can't give me a big enough title or a big enough salary to make me feel terrible every day. Just not going to happen. So instead, I'm started my own business, BU Leadership, to help develop others and to help people in the workplace that know that there's a better way to go to work every day. and I can help, either end of that. So I'm so excited to talk to you today about, just inspiring stories about human connection. At the end of the day, it's about that. People are demanding no less today.
Yes, that's so true. It's about connecting. And you talked about connecting. The leader has to connect with their employees and ensure that they are able to execute their job correctly. And what you said about that the leaders at the end, they are responsible for the results, let's say, and also for the damage. You use this word
Mhm.
as well, the damage, and it's so important to point that out, and also to know that we always have the choice. That's why I named my podcast that way. And stories of change, normally it's stories of change and success, because when you are open to for the change, then it will lead you to success. And this is what I point out with the stories of my guests like you. And congratulations, first of all, you had your birthday and you made a decision to leave corporate world and build your own business. This is very courageous, and for me, it is a leading example.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And, it wasn't always easy, Caroline. I think that particularly the last corporate job I had, I just, I pushed through, and I felt that there was this trust between my boss and I, and it turned out to not be real. And, you know, um, it was a blessing in disguise to I thought I was doing all the right stuff, and I thought that we had a great connection, and when push came to shove, it wasn't like that. And it was painful and it was hurtful, and you know the connection that I thought we had just began to disintegrate. And one of the ways that I noticed that, and I talk about this in the book that I wrote last year as well, The Leadership Contradiction, is that having one-on-one time with your boss, it's not just about the employee's responsibility. Again, putting more of the emphasis on the boss. We're hired because they know we have a certain amount of skills, but it's not our job to develop the relationship constantly and kiss up to the boss so that they could like us. The boss, needs to pay attention to the employee and schedule a weekly or bi-monthly one-on-one where they can ask you, how's your job? What do you need? What we can do to support you. And the boss should not talk the whole time. It should be the employee talking 80% of the time, the boss talking 20% of the time. But what happens more than often is not only is the boss just talking the whole time about themselves, they cancel the meetings, because they're too important. They've got busy things to do. They've got a report or whatever, when at the end of the day, the most important asset that they have is the employees that work for them. And so they end up not spending time with them, feeling like they're not doing their job, and they fire these people. When in reality, it's the boss that should be fired. Not always. Okay, there are some bad employees out there. So I've been in leadership for more than 40 years. So I know that there are some bad employees out there. But there's also some bad leaders, and it's possible that it's likely that I didn't always do things right either. And actually, I talk about that in my book. I made some mistakes. I that's how we learn. But I also know that some of the employees that I was able to spend time with and really give them attention are those that flourish. The same with me. I remember the bosses that helped me flourish and let me take the inherent skills that I had and apply it to their company. That's when people really grow. So I get really passionate about this sort of thing.
Thank you so much for sharing. This reminds me, like, we always remember the leaders that made us feel the happiest, or the most seen and heard, of course. I love
Mhm.
that so much. Of course, I have another question for you.
Okay.
How do you help leaders cultivate a growth mindset while driving accountability and productivity within their organization?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And the answer may not be what most would seem. The best way to cultivate productivity and to get the best response and results out of your employees is to see them and hear them, and to have a personal connection with them. When we just treat our employees as though, they're a piece of paper that we hired and they have the job requirements for the job, we're missing the opportunity to treat them as unique individuals. I believe that everybody is uniquely equipped to do their job, but do it in their way. And I think that the true path to success for leaders is to tap into what are those amazing skills that the employees have, and care about them as human beings, care about, if they have a family, care about, do they like to, do something particular for a vacation that you could ask about, coming up in a couple of months. It's just caring about the human. We are all human beings, and I think this has been, a tough last 3 or 4 years. I think that has only emphasized that there's more to our life than our job. We may spend 40 hours at a job, but we all want our life back. We want to be with our families. We want to vacation. We want to come home in the afternoon and see our child or our grandchild's baseball game, or do things that balance our lives. I know, work-life balance was a thing for a while, but I don't think it needs to be a thing. I just think we just need to have a life, and that our job is only part of it. And so, yeah, I think that a true leader that's going to be successful is going to tap into the unique inherent qualities of each of those employees and help support them in being the best that they could be, inside and outside of work.
Yes, absolutely. Being authentic as well and doing it their way. You pointed out we are so valuable and we are human beings as well. And I think the task, or the responsibility of a leader is also to create the space. You talked about meetings being canceled, and because it was not important for them. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And and being a normal human being as a leader, like you're not any better because you have a title and you get paid more money. I used to do this really fun thing at many of the jobs that I was a leader in. I would call it a 2:00 walk. And at 2:00 for 10 minutes, I would invite anybody in a manager or leadership position, on salary, of course, to just come out for a walk and walk around the building. And it would be a chance to chit chat about something that was important at work, or talk about their weekend, or just get 10 minutes of fresh air and exercise. But the 2:00 walk, I did it in many places, but it was just to kind of help us, remind us that we're all normal human beings, and getting some fresh air and walking for a few minutes is a good way to restart your day, and show each other that you care about them as a person. That being in an office for 8 hours or in a manufacturing plant, just grinding out that job was not the key to success. Yeah.
Yes. I love this idea of restarting during the day,
Yeah.
taking deep breath, and then have a conversation with the leader.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. Of course, I have another question is, what are the most common leadership challenges you've seen, and how do you guide leaders in overcoming them for long-term success?
Excellent. The most common leadership traits are probably just displaying their ego too much, being concerned with their role in the company, and also not having the ability to individually manage their team. And what I mean by that is So first, they think it's all about them, and we all know how that. We don't need to get into that. It's just being too much focused on them when it really needs to be focused on the employees, and then not treating every employee the same. I've said many times that I don't think employees need to be treated fairly. And it's a quote that's been all over the world that I've said in my book, but there's more to it. It's not from regards to a DE&I standpoint or HR or compensation. It's about that individual human and the thing and who they are. You know, we're all unique, but it's actually I think the biggest mistake people make. As an example, you know, I was in a large sales team, and even as a senior leader, I had a boss, and you know, we weren't making our sales goals right as a team, but there was 3 or 4 of us who were exceeding the goals. Well, instead of the boss or leader going to the people who are struggling and say, what do you need for help? How can the other team members, or how can I help you get your goals? They brought everybody into the room and reprimanded everybody because everybody was in trouble. You know, we weren't making the numbers, and he was in trouble with his boss. So there's his ego again, right? And everybody leaves feeling deflated, feeling like they didn't do their job well enough, when in actuality, several of us were exceeding our goals. And then we're the ones who are going to feel worse about it because we're high achievers and we want to do more. So I would challenge leaders that, you know, if you've got 1 employee or 2 employees that need some special attention, take the time and give it to them. You know, don't treat everybody the same as though, you know, you don't have the courage to pull one person aside and say, you know, you need to do better. And here's how, you know, tell me how I can help you. They just destroy the camaraderie of the whole team because they don't know how to help lift up one person. So that to me is one of the biggest mistakes. And I've seen it happen time and time again over the years. So don't make that mistake. Yeah, I would tell leaders.
Oh, it's so important. Yes, it's about not being selfish, of course, and also I think not being arrogant, because when they think they are the leader and the other ones don't count, so
Right.
yes. So my next question is about your goals, because you talked about goals already. What are your next goals? Do you set goals, and what is one of your next projects?
Oh, wonderful. So, gosh, I just thank you for asking me that. I don't know that I've ever been asked that, but so I just returned last week from Spain. I went to Madrid, and from there to Sarria, Spain, to begin walking the Camino de Santiago. And so I spent 7 days in pouring rain, walking the countryside of northern Spain, and really thinking about what my next goals are. And you know, one of the things that I'm wrapping up that has been a long project now coming to fruition is an oracle deck for leaders. And it's called the Leader Paths, and it's based. The cards will be pictures. They're pictures that I have taken myself in different trips I've taken around the world, and different paths, and talking about the different choices we have as leaders, and giving some insight to that. So I'm currently working on that, and hope to have that out, and at least a tease on my website in the next couple of months, so it can be finished, you know, by the first of the year, if not sooner. And so I'm excited because it'll be a bit of a companion to the book I published last year on leadership contradiction. And other than that, just continuing to grow my coaching business and helping to uplift leaders, you know, either one at a time in private coaching, or a combination of private coaching and team coaching, which I found some great success, and really enjoy doing. So it's taking the best part of my 40 plus years in leadership and doing that favorite part, which is lifting people up and helping to develop them. So
Wow.
that's what's coming up.
I absolutely love Oracle decks. And yeah, and thank you so much for sharing and doing this. When you were talking, I saw this, I saw the path of leadership and also the places all around the world you were in, without knowing, of course,
Oh,
but I heard about the Camino, El Camino,
yes.
the path of the Saint Jacob, and I have to tell you, my youngest son is named Jacob after
Okay.
because there's the younger Jacob and the elder one, and we named him after the how's the name? The Jacob, the
Actually,
year.
they I think they refer. There's a couple different ones, but I think that the St. James Cathedral is where the walk ends. No matter if you're coming from France or from Portugal or from southeastern Spain or Ireland or yes, so yeah, it's in a pretty phenomenal thing. I may be doing it again next year, so I'll keep you posted too. Taking a team of people who are interested. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I never did this, so I never visited that place, but I know Santiago de Compostela. Now I know. Yes,
Yeah.
in Spain, of course, in Catalan, I don't know how you call this,
Well,
but
and there's so many videos on YouTube. If you're interested in exploring it, Mar, you can explore the Camino. And I think behind me here, I don't know if you could see it, but that's my passport for all the locations I visited within the Camino, because you do get passport stamps along the way at small little cafes and in these little towns that you pass through that are hundreds of thousands of years old. It's just absolutely beautiful. So we'll have to have another conversation down the road on the oracle cards and some more insight into leadership.
I see it. Thank you so much. And there are also books, of course, about Paulo Coelho. You know this about
Yes.
when he went the path. Yes, I love this so much. Thank you for sharing. And
Oh,
now is time for your last thoughts, final thoughts to the audience, please.
well, thank you. And so, yes, the book Pilgrimage by Paulo Coelho is excellent. I read that as well. Um, this we only have one life, and we are all different and unique people. And so I would say take today to be curious and be curious about other people that are in your lives, whether they're people that you work with or people that are in your family or people that are in community groups that you're within, that you really can change another person's life by giving them just a few minutes of curiosity and connection. And you don't have to know them to be curious about who they are, and to be kind and lend them a word of love and kindness. So it's all up to each of us individual to move forward and try to do that. And if you need help doing that, I'm happy to help guide you. I do free 30-minute sessions, and you can find that on my website. And I'm welcome to talk to you and see if how I can help you, because I love what I do. I love supporting others, and I have the 40 years of leadership to back it up. So, and a few credentials, but that's.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Yes, I will put it in the show notes. Of course, your links. Please reach out to Traycee. She's amazing. She shares her knowledge with us, her wisdom from all those years. And or you reach out to me, I will introduce you. Of course, we know how to find you, where to find you. And thank you again for this interview.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have met you, Caroline, and I know that we will remain friends and looking forward to this journey together.
We are connected now, and I see you in the next episode.